friends, Jewel back with another super cool astrology video. And I thought today we would address the aspect of Venus opposite Pluto in the natal chart, or the birth chart. What happens, what goes on when somebody has this in their chart? So the birth chart is really, a chart of our perception. It is a map of our ideas about the world, how we are oriented towards the world. So, you have to understand the nature of Pluto and Venus when you are talking about this opposition. So, Pluto is that place within us that is representative of, the 8th house. So, it is our repressed things, are things that we have buried: resentment, guilt, shame, our need to control and manipulate, our darkest and unacknowledged desires are found with Pluto. Our lust for money, power, sex, and what someone else has. Because Pluto is that force, the 8th house is where we find other people's resources, what other people have. Now, and then on the other side, we have Venus, which is opposite to that 8th house, represents, that 2nd house of Taurus, originally of values, self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, our sensual desires, what we acknowledge that we want and like, what makes us feel happy in the moment, our sense of pleasure, how we relate socially and within partnerships. So it's very much about values, self-esteem, and how we value ourselves, and what we value is Venus. So when we have these two things, these two parts of ourselves, these two parts of our character, these two parts of our perception of the world in opposition. Now, an opposition is when we see something through the mirror of something or someone else. This is when we see a difficulty in our life, an imbalance reflected through the medium of another person. So when we have Venus opposite to Pluto, these people are in the habit, they are oriented toward the world in such a way that they project their Pluto issues onto others. In their social relationships, in their sexual relationships, they see their own Pluto coming to them very clearly in how other people react and treat them. So they have, they don't understand that it is coming from their own approach, their own style of interacting with others, that this happens to them. So they see their power struggles and obsessions and difficulties in their love relationships through others because of how they are oriented to the world at a very early age. So the association between Venus and Pluto, between what they value, how they feel about themselves, their self-esteem, and sex, death, crisis, difficulties, violence, these two mingle within their personalities. They associate crisis with love. So, they find this in the world because this is their expectation. This is what they think love is. This is their earliest example of what love is. They equate love, sensuality, the things they know that they want, with things that are hard, things that are difficult, things of Pluto and the 8th house. So they believe that they are controlling things with their Venus, people that have this opposition. When in reality, they are actually being controlled and controlling people with their Pluto. So their value system is off. They are seeking to find their personal value through another. So they draw relationships to them that are very crisis and difficulty oriented. And they get into love triangles a lot. People that have their Venus in any aspect to Pluto tend to draw this theme to them of being very heavily attracted to people who are unavailable, who are married or already otherwise attached. And they are very prone to not taking no for an answer when it comes to these relationships that they are attracted to. So there's this interesting dynamic in that they are, have these obsessional feelings about somebody who's not available, and they want to be with them now, but in that that person is not available, they don't have to take that risk of really being with them. They don't have to invest in the intimacy that it takes to be in a real relationship. Because investment is a big part of this opposition. These are money houses. These are houses that represent values, money, what we look for, what we value in ourselves and others. Those things are all very much tied together. People with their Venus in any aspect of Pluto are very attracted to people that have power and money. And this is seen as an ends to, as a means to bring the ends of making them feel good or valued within themselves to be. So they are very much looking to balance their self-esteem and how they value themselves through the oppositional crisis and difficulties that another brings to them. This is what they are used to. They are comfortable with associating crisis with pleasure. So they create what they know. And Venus is the energy, within us that makes us feel good. It makes them actually feel the intensity that they're looking for. What they associate pleasure, what their idea of pleasure is, crisis within relationship fills that for them. So they are not going to be going around knowing this, because Pluto is a very unconscious force within us. And this is an opposition where you are going to be, frankly, blaming this on the people around you or your partners. So, their inability to really attach really comes from their fear of potential abandonment. Their association with love with abandonment, their association with love with crisis, their association with love with violence. So they go around, mirroring their beast onto others because they're looking to balance that with the beauty that they think that they are. And they will say things like, it's not me. I attract people who are obsessed with me. I attract people who exhibit violence towards me or bring crisis into my life. It's not me. This happens to me. Well, you have to ask yourself why this is the theme within your life. What's going on there within you that is attracting this? So it's really needing to balance the things within oneself, how one feels about oneself, with what one gets from another. They really have to learn to value their own self in such a way where they're not looking for that desperately from another person. So, they can have a sense of themselves, consciously that, oh, I think pretty well of myself. I have a real, good, solid self-esteem. But the reality of it is that they are creating situations that they are looking for that affirmation, for that self-esteem from another person in a way that is familiar to them, and that is through difficulty, crisis, sometimes violence. Depends on the entire chart. So they need to find their happiness through themselves. They need to find their pleasure through themselves. They need to find their self-esteem. They need to create that for themselves. And they get clues about this throughout their life because they see their Pluto being mirrored back to them. They see the power, the manipulation, the difficulty that they're not claiming being mirrored back to them. So they get snippets that something's going on here. But with an opposition, we really have to accept that what we are seeing is what we are creating. And the nature of oppositions is that we don't readily want to do that. We want to see this as something that's being projected onto us from the outside, where really, when they can fix this problem from the inside, it can create all kinds of miracles in their lives, where they are not wasting their energy and their time anymore on unavailable people and uninterested people. They are not being prone to stalking behavior or behavior where their love is not being returned in a satisfying way. They can experience the intensity that they are looking for through appropriately valuing their partner. So instead of it being off, where they're, totally invested in this other person, the love and the attention of this other person, they've got to bring that into their life, or else they're just going to die without it. When they can appropriately value that person, that means put them in their proper place. That means not putting all their obsessional love or how they should be feeling about themselves onto that other person. When they pull that back for themselves, and they can pay attention to themselves, because there is an abandonment process that goes on with this. What they are doing is they are mirroring that early experience of being abandoned in some way by a feminine influence. Now this can be, that doesn't mean that that was literal, because the birth chart is our perception chart. So there was something going on in the early childhood where the mother wasn't available, or the mother was a bit scary. There something is off because of the early upbringing. So when they can correct that by going back and redoing those early messages, those early perceptions, seeing what it was early on that has them askew when it comes to their love nature, these people can become the most incredibly committed, passionate lovers. They are so wonderful to be in a relationship with because their focus is so intense. They really want to be part of a lasting and intimate partnership when they can get a hold of their issues. So they go from this obsessional, I've got to find my love through you person, to somebody that has this this magnetism about them, because that they are able to provide and take care of their own self. They have stopped abandoning loving themselves through becoming obsessed with another. So they've achieved a balance that is highly attractive, because confidence and how we feel about ourselves, and a self-esteem that is rock solid is very, very attractive. So this is one that takes some maturity and some real, a real ability to honestly look at how one is behaving within relationships and take responsibility for a lot of the difficulties that they've drawn into their life. A lot of people are not going to go there. So this is an aspect that people can struggle with throughout their lives. It is one that other people can get on top of, but it is it's a doozy, because it really connects, a large part of ourself, our love nature, with a very deep and difficult part of ourself. So it's an interesting one to solve, but it can be done. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please subscribe to my channel if you've not done so. I will be back super soon with more super cool videos. I am available to find on the internet at truthinaspectastrology.com. You can find me on Facebook as well at Truth in Aspect Astrology, where you should be following me because I do the daily astro weather forecasts, birthday descriptions. I specialize in asteroids, so I do lots of writings over there and articles. And I am mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but I interpret all types of charts. So contact me for further information. And I will be back super, super soon. Bye-bye.